Good evening. Well, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished members of the dais, it is a great honor to be here sharing freely this space of thoughts with so many distinguished panelists, former and prestigious diplomats like Ambassador Bajpai and Ambassador Kumar, and renowned scholars, Professor Sani, Professor Murthy, Dr. Partho Shom, who already has strong bonds with my country, with Mexico. And definitely Mr. Douglas, my colleague from the U.S. Embassy, our NAFTA partner. I was invited to share with you our points of view concerning G20, because Mexico holds the chair of the G20 till December, when Russia will take over. And I will take about the Mexican position concerning G20 and the UN more than the Latin American perspective as it is announced in the program for today. Since I was requested to share some thoughts on why observers of international affairs are debating the role of G20 vis-à-vis the United Nations in today's highly interconnected and globalized world. As you are aware, Mexico currently has the presidency of the G20. The successful meeting held in Los Cabos last June reinforced world over the image of strength of the relatively newly created mechanisms to deal with financial challenges in a coordinated manner. President Felipe Calderón declared that the 7th Leaders Summit was characterized by being open and inclusive, and worked closely with various social sectors and organizations whose opinions and recommendations were seriously taken into account. He highlighted the outcome of the summit as relevant and timely to coordinate effective collective actions in order to recover from the consequences of the global financial crisis. The G20 community is confident that the Los Cabos Action Plan for Growth and Employment, the increase of the IMF financial resources to over $450 billion US, the trade facilitation measures adopted, the advancements in improving the regulatory framework, the agreement for the Global Alliance for Financial Inclusion, the creation of the Agricultural Market Information System to prevent worldwide food price speculation and enhance food security, and the attention dedicated to the green growth and environmental issues, all these together are necessary steps towards the right direction. Summarizing, G20 is effectively working, fulfilling its role as the most important cooperative mechanism of economy and finance, encompassing almost, and Ambassador Kumar mentioned this before, almost 90% of the world's gross domestic product, 80% of global trade, and 2/3 of the world population. Before the summit, my Minister of Foreign Affairs, Patricia Espinosa, recognized that in a context of declining economic prospects and pressing global challenges that demand collective action, the current sense of impasse in multilateral institutions should concern us all. There seems to be a global governance gap, one that G20 has called upon to bridge by providing a more vigorous and effective leadership. In this regard, numerous regional and international organizations have emerged with the purpose of attending several noteworthy international issues. However, there is a sense that multilateral organizations must deliver or face the risk of becoming irrelevant. In an informal multilateral structure that lacks institutional coercion, such as the G20, agreements among members depend on their willingness and commitment. Their work, our work, is to assess priorities, to see connections and stimulate actions that formal organizations normally cannot reach. Some consider the G20 to be an intruder in the multilateral system and take the United Nations to be its legitimate leader. Others regard multilateral fora, such as the G20, and formally established organizations, such as the UN, to be the appropriate complements to one another. It has been argued that non-binding agreements resulting from G20 summits can be promoted within the framework of multilateral organizations with some binding power, thus stimulating collaboration amongst themselves. Mexico, and I would like to point out this, Mexico fully embraces the thesis of complementarities. G20 is not overtaking the UN multilateral system, but reinforcing it. G20 is not an intruder in the multilateral system. It's just contributing by using wisely an adequate dose of institutional flexibility. Its very existence demonstrates the importance of tackling difficult global economic problems by discouraging unilateral measures and fostering policy coherence, making concerted action on other global matters all the more promising. But it does not necessarily mean that Mexico is losing faith on the United Nations in the multilateral arena. On the contrary, as the 10th contributor to the UN system, Mexico has always advocated for multilateralism and has also played aggressively to boost the United Nations as a reformed organization to tackle global issues. For example, the successful COP16 held in Cancun in 2011, under the aegis of the United Nations system, restored some faith in the multilateral system. Moreover, during the G20 process, President Calderón highlighted the importance of organizing a process of consultations and an expanded and a transparent dialogue with the United Nations, non-member countries, regional organizations, and all the relevant participants in the process of finding solutions to the complex economic and financial problems that the international community as a whole faces today. On the other hand, breathtaking technological and political changes have led global economic, social, and political activity to evolve in a way that makes it difficult to many multilateral institutions to meet ever-rising expectations and demands participation through different ways to tackle imperative issues as food security, creation of jobs, and vigorous recovery from financial difficulties. Global governance regimes and mechanisms need clear and decisive political guidance in order to fulfill their mandates. Current difficulties notwithstanding, a multilateral system remains our best international guarantee of stability and legality. Only through leadership, rightly applied where it is most needed, can multilateral institutions be refocused to address the areas that require immediate attention. Bearing this in mind, the G20 leaders and other participants discuss on a regular basis crucial questions on the most pressing challenges for global economic governance. These discussions have touched on issues such as the role that G20 should play in order to break persistent deadlocks in the multilateral system, or the ways in which we can strengthen the rule of law within a complex and evolving international architecture. In the same way, other regional fora tackle global issues, since global interdependence has become extremely complex and diversified. In this regard, the G20 is also exploring alternative ways in order to promote green growth and green investment, as well as social development and food security, all of them and convergent topics within the United Nations system. Ladies and gentlemen, in conclusion, cooperation between the UN and the G20 is desirable and profitable, but will G20 be enough to successfully address economic, financial, and especially the most recently added issues? The answer will rely, as always, in the degree of commitment of the international community. I keep this question open to stimulate debate. Thank you.